Picture classic pirate scene, sun-bronzed buccaneers lounging after storm, clothes drying quickly in tropical sunshine. Here's brutal reality that would have killed those Hollywood heroes in their first real Tempest encounter. Storm has passed, but nightmare just beginning. Everything on ship completely soaked like giant sponges.
Not just damp or wet, but saturated. Shirts hang like lead weights. Hammocks drip steadily.
Even bread sacks in storage are soggy disasters that squelch when you touch them. This isn't about comfort. On wooden ship, wet clothes mean death in dozen different ways. Wet gunpowder won't fire against attackers. Wet rope stretches and snaps during sail work. Wet wool steals body heat faster than jumping overboard. Wet cotton breeds skin-rotting diseases. Killer detail separating Hollywood from history. There's no sunshine to save you from soggy hell. Sky hangs like iron ceiling, gray and threatening, promising more storms instead of rays. Air feels thick and heavy, loaded with moisture, making everything worse instead of better. Real pirates faced soggy hell regularly, developed systems to beat it through careful techniques.
Not through luck or toughness, but wisdom from sailors who learned what happens staying wet. First had to understand what they were fighting. Invisible moisture destroying everything needed for survival. Real killer is trapped water, moisture caught in fabric, wood, enclosed spaces where it can't escape. Slowly rotting everything from inside out, like invisible plague, destroying ships' essential materials systematically. During storm, green water, solid ocean sheets, crashed over rails and flooded the deck completely. Water didn't splash and drain away, poured through every crack, gap, opening in structure. Turned lower decks into humid caves, where air became thick with trapped, inescapable moisture. Seawater dripped steadily through deck seams, pounded and twisted by storm's relentless, violent forces. Pooled in corners where ship's movement couldn't shake it loose, creating constant dampness problems. Soaked into wooden walls and ceiling, creating damp environment, making clothes drying nearly impossible. Without sunlight evaporating surface moisture, the entire ship became like a giant wet closet breeding mildew. Pirates learned to think of vessel as sealed container, where trapped moisture worsened everything. Crew had to control three critical factors: airflow, heat sources, distance from damp surfaces. Miss any elements, wet clothes stayed wet until they rotted or froze completely. Time worked against them constantly, because weather changes fast without warning at sea. Might have only hours of calm to get essential gear dried before next squall. Let me paint full sensory nightmare. Smell alone could knock modern person unconscious instantly.
Wet wool shirts didn't just smell bad, reeked like pickled seal carcasses in sun.
Lanolin mixed with salt, water, and sweat created odor powerful enough making sailors gag. But wool was essential staying warm when wet, so pirates endured stench or died. Docks presented special horror show. When hung near galley fire, literally crackled like bacon. Salt water evaporated, leaving crusty white deposits, making fabric stiff as cardboard pieces. Damp wool steamed in thick clouds when exposed to heat, filling spaces with vapor.
Smelled like candle shop mixed with fish market. Pirates joked about eau de bilge.
Cold, Wet cloth sucked body heat away faster than jumping into icy water directly. Trench foot lurked in damp socks, turning toes into rotting, painful, amputation-threatening messes. Rashes bloomed on wet skin, minor irritation becoming infected wounds in dirty conditions. Pirate's drying plan started with triage, identifying most critical items for survival, tackling first. Pirate Hack 1. Before drying effectively, remove water through pure physical force completely. Heat and airflow work better on damp fabric than soaking wet fabric still dripping. Pirates developed wringing techniques impressing modern laundromats. Used torsion sticks, wooden batons twisting sleeves.
Two men grabbed shirt ends, inserted sticks, twisted opposite directions until water poured. For larger items like blankets, employed ship's capstan as giant clothes press mechanism.
Capstan normally raised anchor, but pirates used massive leverage pressing down with tons. Squeezing water out like juice from grapes under enormous mechanical pressure and force.
Rolling was technique borrowed from professional laundries on shore. Laid garments flat, rolled tightly.
Around wooden spars or rope, then stomped or rolled under heavy objects forcing water.
More water removed this way, less fuel and time needed for actual drying process.
But aggressive wringing couldn't remove all moisture from sea-soaked wool and canvas fibers.
Fabric held water like tiny sponges. Getting stubborn dampness required carefully controlled heat.
Physical water removal, just first step in complex process, requiring perfect execution, always. No second chances when next storm already building on distant, threatening horizon ahead. Pirate Hack 2. Harness heat without creating fire hazards, destroying entire wooden ship. Required ingenious solutions balancing desperate warmth need against ever-present fire danger constantly.
Ship's cook became master of controlled heat, running galley-like precision drying operation.
Main weapon, sand bed brazier, firebox filled with sand, distributing heat evenly, preventing spread. Cook kept iron lids and dampers handy, controlling airflow, quickly smothering escaped fires. Above brazier, wooden racks rose like ladders, creating multiple levels for hanging clothes. Positioning critical. Too close scorched fabric. Too far heat wasn't effective for moisture. Dedicated firewatch stood constant guard, with wet swab and sand bucket ready. Not paranoia. Learned wisdom from countless ships burned to waterline through careless drying operations. Steam billowed constantly from racks, filling the galley with vapor clouds carrying away moisture.
Also created problems. Thick air, condensation on cool surfaces, almost zero visibility.
Pirates worked in rotation, some tending fires, others rotating clothes through heat zones. Others maintaining ventilation, preventing galley from becoming dangerous sauna, more harmful than helpful.
But heat alone wasn't enough without airflow carrying away humid vapor effectively.
Wet clothes would steam in place without drying, creating fire danger without benefits. Pirate Hack 3. Creating artificial wind systems below deck for moving air circulation. Moving air, just as important as heat for turning wet fabric into dry survival gear. Windsail was ingenious invention. Canvas windsock rigged down through deck hatch, capturing natural wind.
Looked like giant fabric tubes twisting with every breeze, pouring fresh air directly.
Pirates stretched canvas tarps, creating air tunnels, directing airflow across specific drying areas. Positioning strategically, channeled wind from one ship part to another, creating constant drafts.
Most effective, cracking hatches on opposite sides, creating bellows effect for steady flow.
Air sucked through one opening, pushed through another, pulling moisture away from clothes. Controlling air currents required constant attention and adjustment as conditions changed rapidly. Wind direction changed, wind sails repositioned. Ship's heading changed, different hatches opened or closed.
Pirates learned reading air movement like ocean currents. Understanding small adjustments create improvements.
System worked beautifully when everything aligned. Natural wind, positioned sails, coordinated hatch management. But when natural breeze died, carefully constructed airflow systems became useless immediately. Had to rely on other methods at finishing job when wind systems failed completely. Pirate Hack 4. Using natural materials absorbing moisture and fighting mildew, ruining clothes. Techniques from centuries of sailor wisdom about working with limited resources in hostile environments.
Clean wood ash was secret weapon against stubborn dampness in heavy cloth items.
Pirates dusted ash through fabric, letting fine particles absorb moisture from fibers directly.
Beat cloth vigorously, knocking out ash, leaving behind significantly drier fabric than before.
Ash also neutralized odors and had antimicrobial properties, fighting rot and decay naturally.
Dry sand worked similarly for items handling rougher treatment. Worked sand through canvas.
Using abrasive particles, scrubbing out salt deposits, while simultaneously absorbing water from fabric.
Sand had to be completely dry to be effective, stored in sealed containers. Vinegar rinse was final weapon against bilge stink and mildew, making clothes unwearable. Quick dip in diluted vinegar killed fungus and bacteria while cutting sour seawater smell.
After vinegar treatment, clothes got final pass near controlled heat, driving out last moisture.
Items emerged lighter, cleaner smelling, actually pleasant to wear instead of soggy torture devices. But even with techniques working together, battle wasn't over against persistent ship humidity. Humidity trapped in wooden structure kept feeding moisture back into air, threatening re-dampening. As pirates got desperate, realized individual drying techniques weren't enough for complete success.
Had to address humidity source by making systematic changes to how ship handled water.
Turning vessel maintenance into coordinated campaign against their persistent soggy enemy, always present. Scuppers, deck drains, got cleared obsessively because standing water meant constant evaporation, raising humidity.
Freeing ports along sides opened, letting trapped water escape from enclosed spaces below.
Every surface swabbed until deck seams swelled tight, keeping new water from penetrating.
Ship's carpenter became humidity warrior, recalking every seam showing signs of weeping water.
Used oakum and tar sealing gaps opened during storm, especially around hatches and companionways.
Every stopped leak meant less moisture in air for everyone to breathe and fight.
Cooper worked alongside, rehooping casks loosened during rough weather, preventing leaks and waste. Fresh water barrels especially critical, because losing drinking water could mean death sentence. Sailmaker patched weather cloths, rigged new canvas barriers keeping future waves from boarding. Goal wasn't just staying dry now, but preventing next storm creating the same soggy disaster. Lower humidity throughout ship meant faster drying, but required discipline and following procedures. One careless person could undo hours of collective work by flooding critical storage. When survival depends on keeping things dry, couldn't rely on individual initiative alone.
Created formal systems with assigned responsibilities because coordinated effort meant survival versus death.
Ship's articles got specific amendments about wet weather procedures. Wet gear banned from storerooms.
Serious penalties for violations. Contaminating dry storage meant loss of shares, potential marooning.
Protecting group resources more important than individual convenience. Quartermaster scheduled drying watches constantly. Someone always monitoring clotheslines, fire safety, and air circulation systems around clock.
Cook rationed heat like ammunition, allocating specific times based on priority and requirements. Essential items like gunpowder bags got first access to best drying conditions available. Personal clothing had to wait turn in rotation. Sailmaker managed windsail systems constantly adjusting as wind changed, making repairs when constant use wore out fabric.
Carpenter marked wet corners in chalk, checked daily tracking whether humidity control worked. Men learned rotating personal clothing in 3-set cycles: wearing, drying, stored, ready.
Breaking rotation or hoarding dry clothes meant losing shares because individual selfishness threatened group. 2 hours before watch change, disaster nearly strikes in cramped galley with drying clothes. Lashing line slips, one small unchecked knot, and wool sleeve sags toward glowing coals.
Galley fills with thick steam as moisture turns to vapor, then smell of scorching.
Firewatch reacts with split-second timing. Lid down, damper shut, wet swab against glowing spots. Drying racks lifted away from heat while crew scrambled repositioning windsail, clearing steamy air.
Terrifying moment checking for fire damage. One sleeve singed but not destroyed, still functional.
Ship wasn't burning, drying could continue. Lessons learned, preventing worse of future problems. Socks stopped crackling. Shirts ceased dripping as last moisture driven out by managed air.
Shiver from next watch turned to grin, pulling on genuinely dry, warm clothing. Felt like miracle after days of being constantly damp and cold in soggy hell.
But just as everyone relaxed, thunder grumbled again, promising another round of battle.
Real pirates didn't wait for perfect sunny weather to solve their survival problems.
Built solutions using ringers, safe heat, smart airflow, natural desiccants, ship-wide moisture control.
Worked regardless of what Sky was doing. Staying dry wasn't about luck or swagger.
About craft, discipline, shared labor executed perfectly every time, because no second chances. Pirates measured success in clear scuppers, warm sleeves, coordinated systems beating moisture through teamwork.
On wooden worlds surrounded by endless water, courage wasn't shouting defiance at storms. Courage was checking windsail positioning 10th time, turning racks, maintaining complex survival systems. Heat that dried clothes wasn't tropical sunshine, was human ingenuity applied systematically to problems. Pirates surviving multiple storms understood survival was system, not personal quality requiring perfection. On wooden islands surrounded by hostile water, staying dry meant alive. Staying alive meant working together.